Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to another episode of Embrace the Face, Season 3. I'm Allie Anderson, nurse, Reiki master, intuitive healer, self-healing, and ascension guide. And today I have a very special guest. I have Reverend Maria D'Andrea. How are you, Maria? Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me on your show. I'm doing great. We're always doing better and better.
Yes. Always up from here, right?
Yes.
So Maria is so unique in what she does, and I'm going to give a little background. So you do interfaith ministry. You have a doctorate in metaphysics, a doctorate in divinity, a doctorate in religious humanities, a doctorate in religious science, and you also have your own Institute of Esoteric Studies called the D'Andrea Institute of Esoteric Studies. You do everything from house blessings to readings to in-person classes to hypnotherapy. You are an author of over 65 publications in the paranormal genre. You are a spiritual international public speaker and educator on all things spirituality and metaphysics. And you are a shining light to helping people, I believe, to really truly understand what is metaphysics, what is shamanism, what does it mean to tap into ancestry and history. And one of the things that we're really going to get to the nitty-gritty of today is Maria has this unique form of divination that she uses called rune casting, which is a method that was used by the Vikings and Europeans to unlock information about the past, present, and future by tapping into the universal mind. So I find that to be so fascinating, but I want you to take the stage, Maria, and talk a little bit about your story. You are from Budapest, Hungary. You've had gifts since the age of, I believe, 16 you started with your psychic abilities and readings. So go ahead and introduce yourself and just go ahead and share your story.
So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Actually, I've been in the spiritual, psychic, paranormal fields full-time since I'm 16. This is all I do, and obviously everything related to my field. But I've actually been working psychically, for lack of a better term, since I was 6. So I came over during the Hungarian Revolution when I was 6. And my mother was telling me that we were escaping in a group. And when we were escaping, the group decided to split into two, and they were having a discussion about it. And one group said that they were going to move forward, and we were going to Austria. And the other group said that they were going to go back. So she told me that at 6, I told them that God told me that if they move forward, everybody will be safe. And she said half the group went back. And when we were in Austria, a little bit later on, they found out that everybody that went back was killed. And everybody in our group, we didn't have a problem crossing. We didn't have a problem with anything. Everybody was safe. So being who I am, I said to her, what was wrong with you adults listening to a 6-year-old? I decided there was something wrong with all of them. And she said to me that the words I used, you would not have known at 6. And that's the only reason they paid attention.
Okay.
So I just thought everybody knew things. And then when I was in school in this country, I realized that some things I can see other people can't. So through time, I just realized that I was doing something a little bit different. Now, I truly believe everybody is psychic intuitive. I really feel that it's a survival instinct. The only difference I look at it as some people are artists, but everybody can draw, right? So it's the same thing. Some people have more of an instinct with it, for lack of a better word, and everybody can use it, though, on some level or another. So what I like to tell people when I teach is the way that they can tell that they're intuitive, and this happens with everybody. If you're walking down the street in the middle of Manhattan, with thousands of people walking behind you, and somebody is walking behind you for too long a time, instinctively you will turn around. You can't help it. It's survival. So I'm sure everybody's had an experience somewhere along that line. And
Mhm.
that's why I like to teach, because I find everybody has that instinct. Okay. So whether they choose to work with it or not, there's no good or bad. There's no timing. Everybody is in the right place for themselves. You know? And metaphysics and the psychic levels are two completely different fields. Some of us, like you and I, do both fields. So the way I like to explain that is that being psychic is very passive. So if we're talking to somebody doing a reading, they used to have the phones with the wires, which just aged me.
I did grow up with that. I did have a corded
Okay,
phone.
I feel a little better. But when I'm doing a reading, my source is one end of the phone. The person I'm reading is at the other end of the phone, and I'm really just the wire. I'm just passing on information. I normally don't know what I'm saying, why I'm saying it, and I'm
Mhm.
not going to remember it later because the information isn't meant for me. So it's very, very passive. So the best thing you can say about yourself, if you're the best reader on the planet, is that you're okay as a tool. So if you had ego, that'll kill it.
Mhm.
Because none of it is really us. A lot of my clients are business people, businessmen and women. I don't know what I'm saying to them.
It's true. It's true. I don't think people realize that. And it really is just an open channel, a free flowing of information coming through. And it means I have no idea what I'm saying. It may sound a little bit crazy and all over the place, but I always tell clients, like, this is what is meant for you to hear in this moment. And I'm just the messenger.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And
I love
anybody,
that analogy though with
yeah.
the phone cord. That's actually very it's good, it's a good layman term analogy, like for anybody to really understand, because like you said, I also am a firm believer that everyone is capable of tapping into psychic intuition.
Exactly. I'm right there with you, you know. Now, the metaphysical side is different. It's the opposite. Metaphysics is understanding the laws of nature to work with them. So we create positive situations and things. We get rid of negative things, banishing. We get rid of negative things in a positive way, because you and I really work out of karma on the level that we really don't do negative. That doesn't mean I don't mess up a lot. It's just not on purpose.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I truly believe, and every belief system has this, I truly believe that whatever you put out comes back. So I'm really, really careful about my thoughts and what I put out, consciously.
Yeah.
Again, still make mistakes, but we really are the oldest science. It's really a science. Like chemistry came out of alchemy, physics came out of metaphysics, so we really are very, very ancient in our systems. So in my books, as an example, a lot of them are ancient formulas, and some of them are mine, which just means that I was doing it for years, and it's science. So every time you repeat the exact same formula in science as well, okay, if it comes out with the exact same outcome, then we'll pass it on to people.
Hmm.
Now, if I'm doing something and I was doing it for years and it works every single time, okay, I will pass it on. If I do something and a couple of times it doesn't come out with the same outcome, I don't even tell people I did it.
Hmm. Hmm. Your own laboratory, your own study. I love that.
Because I honestly believe the more we help people, the better people do, the better the world gets. So I
Absolutely.
really, that's why I like doing public speaking and teaching and workshops, because I find the more people can do for themselves, it's better for them, it's better for the people around them. Yeah. So we're creating hopefully a better place for everybody.
Yes, I love it. A place where everybody is able to look within and shed those old layers so that they can then raise their own vibration and then be of service to others. I always tell people, like, once you start doing the work, it catches on and then it spreads to other people around you, and that's the general idea.
Oh, exactly. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. So talk to me about the runes. I'm
Okay.
I'm so interested in hearing your knowledge on this.
So, first of all, with readings, and I know I've said this to you, with readings, except for astrology, I do every other form. I teach it, I do it. So, if people have a preference, I will switch to any technique they'd like. However, if they don't have a preference, I like to do the runes. And the reason is that I find it's very detailed. I like details because I feel the more details, the more information you have, the better you can make your own decisions. So with the runes, I find just like any other tool, they're a trigger and it gives you kind of a jump start. But again, the main thing that I like with them, it's a very, very ancient form, is that it gives you a lot of details. So especially when I deal with business people, okay, it tells them who to hire, where to place them, where somebody's ability is that they're hiring, so they don't hire somebody creative and put them in a very technical, analytical job because it won't work for either the person hiring or the person in the job. So they'll place them somewhere where it's a little bit more creative or the other way around. So I find, like I said, the more you know, the better you can make your own decisions. So that's why I like the runes a little bit more. Now, it's funny because I'm from Europe. Like I said, I came over during the Hungarian Revolution. So I honestly didn't know that anybody in my family was connected to the runes or readings or anything till I was in my 30s. Nobody told me. You think somebody would have mentioned it? It would have been a little bit helpful,
Yeah.
because my grandparents, my grandfather on my mother's side, uh, was a trance medium. And then they did seance and all sorts of things. And I didn't find out till I was in my 30s. And I didn't find out till he passed, where, it would have been helpful to ask somebody how they were.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then, yeah, and then I have two adult sons, and they both read and they both do metaphysics, but
Very
they're in, you know, 9 to 5 jobs.
okay. So it's
I,
like this little side hustle.
yeah, and I always laugh because, every now and then, they're like, well, I'm in a normal job. And I'm saying, well, let's see. My job is normal for me. Didn't you guys eat growing up?
So,
People, when you think artists and musicians and, we're
yeah.
all in really different jobs. They're not necessarily 9 to 5, you know, but really it is a way of life more than anything else. So if you and I were not doing readings, we'd still be psychic and we'd still be doing this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I have a question.
Sure.
So the runes,
Mhm.
the history behind it, from what like I've learned a little bit, is that it was basically Vikings and ancient Europeans who would like how would they tap in? Like how did they figure this out?
Okay. Well, the original story is that Odin uh, was hanging on a tree with spears going through him, and he was hanging on the tree for a number of days, and it caused him to have visions. And in the vision, he saw runes and their meaning. Now, even though it sounds barbaric, which by the way, I think it is, you know, if you look at the tribes, because I'm connected to some of the Native American tribes, because shaman is shaman.
Yeah.
And, if you look at the tribes, a lot of the tribes had that. It's not just Nordic. So people go, oh, that's terrible with Odin. But a lot of the tribes had that.
Mm-hmm.
And on the tribal level, they still do that sometimes, where it's called the sun ritual. And they do still have that practice because they look at it as they're giving it back, giving their life force, their blood back to Mother Earth.
Yes.
Okay. So that's how basically the runes came to be.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So now, since you have the doctorate in the religious studies, is that kind of going hands in hand in universal religion when people go into like sanctuary and they just pray for like 3 days at a time and in darkness, they fast, is that kind of like the same idea, that same concept, so you can get those visions and clarity for what your individual soul needs?
Yeah. I think everybody has their own technique that they're comfortable with, but I think you're right. Absolutely. Because if somebody is in a dark room for a period of time, it's impossible not to get visions.
Yes.
It really is, you know. Or if you go out, well, I'm in the city, but if you go out, say, to the woods, because I hike and do other things, we tend to have more of a sense of adventure,
Mm-hmm.
especially because we're safe everywhere. So if I was out in the woods by myself for a while, eventually you're going to see visions. So anything that helps you do that is very positive. I always suggest, though, when I teach classes individually or otherwise, I always suggest the first thing I always teach, it's called psychic self-defense.
Mm.
Because I always laugh. I came up with a technique where it takes me about 3 hours to teach it. It took me 10 years of goof ups to come up with it.
Those are the best ones, though. Those are
Right.
the
So every time
time-tuned
somebody
ones.
says to me, well, it's only 2 hours, mentally I'm going, and 10 years.
So worth
But
it. Worth
yeah,
it.
but it took me that long because it's very powerful. But basically, if on a shamanic level, what happens is it's 100% safe on anything in the spiritual realms. Like, if you're meditating, you're opening a gateway to a different realm. If
Mm-hmm.
you're calling in, say, for an angel, angelic force, you're still opening a portal. You don't know what's hitchhiking with it.
Yes.
So it makes you 100% safe from anything on the other side. And that doesn't mean that you may not see something that's a negative entity. It just means it cannot get to you. Okay. On the physical realm, it tones down negative situations. It doesn't make them all go away because we're learning. We
Yes.
need to go through some experiences. So I always use this example. If somebody was going to steal your car in a bad neighborhood, okay, they won't steal your car. They might steal your hubcaps or the car in front of you, the car in back of you. You're fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am a big proponent and educator of being grounded, connected, but most importantly, protected.
Exactly.
Because as humans, we are spiritual beings and human beings, and I know what it likes. I remember and know what it is like to feel almost psychically attacked, and it affects me on a physical level. Like I feel physically
Of
ill.
course. Oh,
So until
definitely.
I learned that, I love that you pointed that out because I really feel like that is like a key point in being able to navigate life in the 3D, in the lower densities with the lower astrals while we are being like living vicariously through our higher self and channeling, multi-dimensional realities, like you said with shamanism. I know we were going to get into that. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about. So here is in the modern world. A lot of people. I've studied shamanism. I practice. I'm also myself very connected to Native Indigenous American tribes. I meditate to their music. I just feel very called to work with a lot of their practices and rituals. But I have a hard time referring to myself as a shaman because in my mind, like a shaman is somebody of lineage, like a direct line of lineage. So how can somebody who is like also, because I know a lot of people who practice these shamanic practices, but don't necessarily feel confident or comfortable saying I am a shaman.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm from Europe, so I'm a European shaman, which is different than here. It is connected to the same as Native Americans, by the way, and
Mm-hmm.
to some other cultures besides that. But I think people have a misunderstanding of it, and I think you're absolutely right. First of all, it does not have to come through your lineage. So when I learned, I learned from a shaman, gets passed down. A lot of what I learned, I actually got through direct information because we channel.
Mm-hmm.
So some of it was direct.
Yes.
Now, in Europe, a shaman means that you do everything. So if you're a healer, I think that's phenomenal because we need more healers, but you're not a shaman. So some people that do one or two things keep saying they're a shaman. I'm like, no, you're a phenomenal healer. You can do psychic readings on a fantastic level. It does not make you a shaman. Shaman means you do everything.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I normally like to explain it is if you think tribal in ancient times, when you're thinking of the tribes, a shaman was needed to do everything. So even though you say, as an example, had somebody that's a medicine person, medicine man, medicine woman, a shaman still needed to be able to do healings. It's kind of like backup.
Okay.
But a shaman also needed to be able to do healings. We do counseling, so I'm a pastoral counselor, and I'm a counselor through other techniques. You needed to be the spiritual leader of the tribe, so that's why I'm in the ministry.
Okay.
You needed to be able to help people make decisions, to decide what's best for them, what's not best for them, how to make positive decisions to improve their lives. So we do psychic, right? Psychic readings. We
Mm-hmm.
do prophecy. Prophecy is different than psychic. You can be psychic and do prophecy, but if you're doing just prophecy, a prophet basically means that you're getting information for the whole tribe or nationally or globally or for the town. It's prophecy really isn't meant individually. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
So we do that. You're basically doing anything where you're helping people on different levels. And the best way to basically explain that is you're really doing everything. Now, even though we do everything that you can actually think of, because that's what our strongest ability, okay, one of the things that people are not aware of that we do, which is why I wanted to get to it, is to be a shaman, you absolutely need to know weapons.
Mm.
Okay. And the reason is this: in the tribe, if the chief goes to war, whether you're male or female, if you're a shaman, you're on the horse next to the chief, protecting the chief psychically and protecting the chief physically. At the same time, you're protecting the tribe at a distance on the psychic level, psychic self-defense and psychic protection. If the chief leaves you with the tribe, you're protecting the tribe physically and the psychic self-protection, because we can protect other people.
Mm-hmm.
And you're protecting the chief at a distance. So you really need to know everything. So sometimes I laugh because I have two wonderful adult sons, and I probably have more weapons than they do.
They better watch out. No, I'm just I love that is so interesting though. I never knew that they were, I know about so I trained through the Modern Mystery School International, and they have a whole shamanic like track that you can go down, and a lot of what they teach is weaponry and how to hold your own, and if God forbid there were battle, as if it were back in indigenous days, like, how, so that's so interesting to me. I find that just so, the shaman really is, like you said, the jack of all trades in healing and prophecy
And
and
teaching.
protection, and very cool. I love that.
And
Thank you.
that's also why we teach, because we
Yeah.
want people to be able to do things for themselves.
Yeah.
And that's why we help in different areas, like with businessmen. The better they do, the better people do working for them, the better everybody does financially. So it just expands.
Yeah.
So it's very, very positive. And it was funny. Um, I'm dating, and I was talking to my sons once, and I said to them, I said, listen, before I go out with somebody new, do you want the guy's name, his phone number? Well, what do you want? And they kind of laughed at me, and they went, listen, just don't hurt the guy if something comes up, because we don't have bail money.
They're not worried about him. They're worried about you. I love it.
They were like, no, they never asked. They just figured that I'm okay. I'm not the issue.
Yeah. No, that's important. That's
Yeah,
great that they know that. It's one. I mean, it's you
it's
worry
funny.
about things like that, so that's great that they have that, trust and faith in you that
Mhm.
you'll be okay. You'll hold your own. You're a New Yorker, where
You know, yeah. Well, between the psychic defense and the physical,
Oh
I part of me was like, "What do you mean you don't worry about me?"
yeah, they will
But
always worry about you.
yeah, no, but it was just really funny. I'm like, "What do you
That
mean
is
you don't have
funny.
bail money?"
Aw, aw.
But I actually had an experience on the subway that is more on the occult side. Well, now they
Okay.
call it metaphysics, paranormal. Occult just means ancient wisdom, hidden knowledge. It
Yes.
isn't positive and negative. It's not religion. I know you know that.
Yeah.
But, for people that aren't that aware, occult that's all occult means is ancient wisdom, hidden knowledge.
Yeah. It's not. It's
Yeah.
not really as taboo. It's just.
No, no.
Yeah. It's not. So, what is this experience you had?
Oh,
So
it was
curious.
really funny. Years ago, I was going to a studio because I do media work. So I was going to a studio, and I was going really late at night to Canal Street. So people that don't live around here, basically that's a very bad neighborhood at night.
Yeah.
Now, at the time, it was years ago, so I didn't know it was a bad neighborhood either. So I'm going to this TV studio really late at night, and I'm on the subway. And on the subway, people normally don't talk to you. So I'm on the subway, and this very nice gentleman sitting next to me asked me where I'm going. I told him I'm going to Canal Street. He spent a couple of minutes explaining to me why I should turn around and go home. So he
Yeah.
gets off the subway. Somebody else comes on the subway. Different gentleman sits in the exact same seat, asks me where I'm going. I said I'm going to Canal Street. I went through that with three different men. Now,
Wow.
normally you would think, okay, I should take that hint and go home,
Yeah.
you know. And being who I am, I just went, okay. All that means is I need to be more careful.
Mm-hmm.
So I get off the subway, and on the subway platform, you have big pillars, right, holding it up. So when I got off, I didn't see anybody else on the platform except me. So I'm going towards the exit, to go up to Canal Street.
Mm-hmm.
And there's about 4 or 5 guys coming towards me down the stairs. And when you're in trouble, and when it's a gang, right?
Yeah.
So you're in trouble. So when I'm in trouble, I do two things. First, I go occult, which means I'm safe,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then if I need to, my backup is martial arts and other things. But pretty much my go-to is the occult because it's quicker and it's more direct, and honestly, it's deadlier. I
Yeah.
couldn't think
Yeah.
of a nice way to say
Powerful.
that,
Powerful.
right?
Yeah.
Or you can use it in a positive way, to create positive things.
Mm-hmm.
But this situation didn't call for positive. So I went occult. And right after I did that, some guy behind me came up from behind me, went past me. I didn't even know he was there, like I said. He must have been behind one of the pillars. He walked past me, went up and said something to these guys, and they went away. The gentleman walked me to the studio, explained to me why I should not be there, and told me all about his girlfriend.
Oh,
You can't make that stuff up, and that's how the defense.
no.
That's how the defense works. You don't know how it's going to help you.
Yeah. So actually, that reminds me. So I personally, and I'm not going to tell this whole story, but I have had similar experiences on the
Hmm.
train. On the train. So
Right.
anybody who has maybe you're just honing in newly to your psychic abilities. Like if you are on a train and you are something doesn't feel right, whether it's somebody telling you, or for me, I feel a lot, and I know that there's negative entities around. So it's a common place. So I feel like people need to pay attention and be like, oh, it's not me. Like it's
Right.
something else going on. However, you telling that story, I want to say it was a few years ago, somewhere in the Middle East, with all the tragedy going on there with war.
Hmm.
There was a report that there was a group of people who were huddled inside of a home, and it was being invaded, and they started praying, and
Hmm.
and this one woman who was the interviewee, the subject, She
Right.
said she visually pictured them being protected and went occult essentially, and
Right.
she shielded them, and they all prayed together, and as the more they prayed and in unison, it ceasefired, it stopped, and they
You
went
have to
away.
love the way it works, right?
Yeah, it's incredible. And it really, really does work in moments, whether it's a, war situation, whether you're on the subway or if it's just everyday, run of the mill stuff. Like, it works.
Oh, definitely. I love that you and I love that we can help people
Yes,
because it makes us feel better. It makes the world better. Yeah. So anything you and I can do, to help people and to improve anybody's life, you and I are just right there.
100%. So with that being said, to wrap up, I'm so grateful for your time here. So do you have any events coming up or classes or anything?
Oh, I always do.
Okay,
I have
so
to think
if
about. Well,
anybody
first
if
of all,
anybody wants to find out what Maria's up to,
right.
you can join her email list, but you can email her also at so Maria M D'Andrea DANDREA 100 at gmail.com. And I
Definitely.
will share your website. And again, thank you so much. I feel like I learned so much in 30 minutes, and I'm
Uh,
so
I
grateful for you. And I can't wait to see. I feel like we're going to be collaborating a bunch.
yeah.
So
And thank you so much. And I just want to mention anybody interested in any of my books, they're all on Amazon
okay, yes,
somewhere.
65
Somewhere.
books to choose from. I love it.
And
Thank you,
thank you
Maria.
so much.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for joining. Please come back next week for more high vibe content and interview. Peace out and God bless.